Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to talk to you guys about the win total for UCF. It's a futures bet. The season's approaching, and the sportsbook have not changed on UCF. You see it here, 7.5 wins, kind of even, kind of coin flip-ish. If you look at it, they expect them to go under 7.5 wins. The sportsbook has them at 7 wins. That's why they're paying you less on your return. And if they get over, well, that's almost a value bet, but we're not in positive money, so it's not really. It's just a coin flip at this point. Do you think they're going to win 8 or 7 regular season games? Well, let's talk about it. Last season, this team went 6-7. 6-7, lost in the bowl game. So that means they won 6 games in the regular season. But if you go back and look, they beat Kent State, one of the worst teams in America. It was a hapless game. It was embarrassing. Kent State showed up. They had this 4th-string quarterback from Purdue. His name was Mike Alamo, and Alamo looked lame-o. But in that game, we saw John Rice Plumlee run all over the field. We saw the UCF wide receivers go crazy and get a ton of yards. So we thought, man, at least, from my perspective, UCF's going to be dominant all season long. I expected them to beat Kent State, but by 50, that was impressive. Then we realized, well, it's not that impressive. The next week, they go on the road. They beat Boise State, did not cover the spread, and it was 18-16. And what we learned from that point forward is no wins were going to be easy until a freak accident in Oklahoma State. These guys were terrible. UCF, something was wrong continuity-wise, execution. The defense was gross. And I'm telling you, the defense was bad, guys. It was terrible. They go out, they blow out Villanova, another FCS team. So now you have 2 wins. I shouldn't say another. Kent State's an FBS team. But the worst team in the FBS and then a team from the FCS. Congratulations. This was supposed to be all cakewalks, and it was supposed to be in preparation for the Big 12 season, right? Then they move up to the Big 12, and they found out real quick they don't belong in the Big 12, or at least not right now. They don't match up well in the trenches or in their secondary. And sure enough, Kansas State blows them out 44-31. Baylor beats them 36-35. Kansas beats them 51-22. And what you're noticing is these teams are putting up a crazy amount of points. We're talking about 44, 36, 51. Like, those are big numbers. Nobody's under 30 points. Nobody's under 30 points. They lose to Oklahoma in a close game. They had 2 weeks to prepare for that game. Oklahoma was coming off the high of beating Texas, and you still didn't get it done. Congratulations, though. The best thing you can talk about is a loss. The best performance all season long was a loss to that point. Then you go ahead and you lose to West Virginia, a respectable loss, and then you got at Cincinnati. You finally beat another team, but it's just a new Big 12 team. You don't match up well with the Big 12, and it shows because you can only beat the newcomers. Now, how they beat Oklahoma State 45-3, I'll never know. I've watched the game about 3 times this offseason, and when I look at it every single time, I just see an Oklahoma State team that showed up to Florida on the road and was not motivated to be there. They already were close to clinching their conference appearance in the conference title game. Like, it didn't matter to them, right? One of those lame duck games like week 17 or 18 in the NFL football season. Same kind of concept here. Then they go and lose to Texas Tech, enabling Texas Tech to go to a bowl game. But then they beat Houston. Congratulations, you beat another expansion team from the Big 12, another team that just showed up. So you beat the new teams. You didn't get to play BYU, but those are your only wins. The new teams to the Big 12, and then a freak accident against Oklahoma State. Other than that, you didn't win shit except for those first 3 games. It's crazy, man. It's a tale of 2 seasons. People might think they ended the season with some momentum because they went 3-4 at the end, but I don't see it that way. All that momentum's gone when you see the performance they did against Georgia Tech. Like, Georgia Tech just looks so much better. And that's a middle-of-the-road ACC team, if not slightly above the middle of the road. But are you kidding me, bro? You're not built like that. And I love UCF. I love a lot of their players. They're exciting. They have a ton of talent. Obviously, John Rice Plumlee coming in from the transfer portal. That was a former Ole Miss quarterback. Showed up. He's the baddest white boy on the block. He can run everywhere, do everything. Timmy McClain went ahead and hit the portal and left. Timmy McClain, a star high school quarterback. A star high school quarterback coming out of Florida. He was a state champ and all that stuff. Initially went to South Florida, then transferred to UCF. But after being on the bench at UCF and seeing what they're doing, and then they say, yeah, come on in. But we're bringing more quarterbacks. They got 3 quarterbacks they got 2 quarterbacks from UCF, but they got 3 quarterbacks from the transfer portal 2 years ago. And then this past offseason, they just said, hey, thanks for showing up, guys, but we're not going to play any of you guys. They're doing that method of just find the best 85, which is great. So it sucks for some of the kids who signed up and transferred there, but it's all good. Tim McClain's gone. Dylan Risk doesn't really matter. John Rice Plumlee's gone. Okay, going to the running back room. R.J. Harvey is still here. R.J. Harvey is him. That is a beast of a man. 1,400 yards rushing. Not a ton of wear and tear on his carries. It wasn't 300 carries. It was only 226 for an average of 6.3. Very impressive. By the way, 16 touchdowns. He gets it done in the red zone. I like everything about R.J. Harvey. He's a 3-down back. He is the guy. Johnny Richardson, I believe he's gone. Demarcus Bowman, gone. Former 5-star. Came over from Clemson and all that stuff. He's not here anymore. Jordan McDonald went up to Boston College, and I like Jordan McDonald a lot. Played at Milton, good running back, but they didn't use him. A lot of these guys are not going to see the field. It doesn't matter. R.J. Harvey is him. Obviously, I'll talk about their transfer portal additions. This running back room is on a scale from 1 to 10. It's a 10. It's a 10 at UCF. If they run the rock and they do it right, they got it going on. Now, does Gus, as a head coach, know what he's doing with running backs? I don't know. I don't know if he utilizes them correctly. He did here, but 1,400 yards and 16 touchdowns didn't win you any games. It didn't win you enough games because your defense is porous. Your defense is bad. Javon Baker, transfer coming in from Alabama, played amazing, got drafted, gone. Okay, but I love these averages, 20 yards a catch for the whole season. A lot of college programs aren't throwing deep, man. They're throwing them bubble screens, then slip screens. They're doing a bunch of short yardage stuff, and here we have guys going deep almost every reception and getting deep. But there's also a lot of incompletions and a lot of punts in that regard. Kobe Hudson is him. Xavier Townsend, if you watch film, you might say Xavier Townsend is the best receiver on the team. You might. I know he only gets 9 yards a carry, or 9 yards a catch, excuse me. Dude's always open. I love both these guys. Absolute monsters. Don't you ever forget it. Chauncey Magwood, transfer from Kentucky. Not a bad player. And that lets me know how good this wide receiver room is. They got studs at the top. These guys are great. UCF wide receivers. UCF skill players are just so immaculate. So good. Okay? Really, really good. Defensively, losing both your linebackers, not a big deal. Yes, they were the team's leading tacklers, but they weren't all that great. They really weren't. Lee Hunter. I turned on the tape this morning. I was watching tape on UCF, and I'm watching Lee Hunter. He wears number 2. He's a defensive lineman, defensive tackle, nose tackle, whatever. This is an Auburn transfer. He's 6'4", 320 pounds. Lee Hunter is the best defensive tackle I've seen, like outside of Peter Woods. Like, he's the best guy I've seen that nobody's talking about. I don't know about all the top 10 list of all defensive tackles and all this stuff. I don't know what the NFL draft is talking about. You know me. I do all my stuff independently. And when I looked at Lee Hunter this morning, I went, whoa. This dude is third on the team in tackles as a defensive tackle? That's impressive, man. He's everywhere. I went back and watched his huddle tape. He's catching passes, running touchdowns. In high school, he's running plays. He's catching passes. Defensive tackle, 6'4", 320. He's everywhere. Everywhere. Led the nation in tackles among defensive tackles. Just makes the play every single time. Love everything about that guy. Morris Brash gone. Nakai Martinez hit the transfer portal, gone. Josh hit the transfer portal, gone. These two are going to hurt depth-wise, but it's not that big of a deal. I think Wilson's gone as well, or he might be back. I can't remember. I'll look at the depth chart right now. Henderson's definitely back. He's an okay guy. He's always on the field, doesn't make a lot of plays for me. Malachi Lawrence, absolute stud. Absolute stud. Malachi Lawrence, 7.5 sacks last year. He and Lee Hunter are going to team up and be very dominant on the defensive front. I really like it. DeCorian Patterson, he's gone now, but I want to point him out because this is a guy that led the nation in interceptions while at Middle Tennessee State, transfers to UCF and does nothing. And that could be a number of things. That could be your defensive backs coach. That could be your scheme. Or it could just be a guy dominated down at the group of 5. When he got to the Power 5, it didn't work out. Right? That could be the case. I want to tell you, I see a problem in scheme. I see a problem in talent evaluation. I see a problem in talent evaluation among the secondary at UCF. The players they put on the field and the players they pick don't really move me like that. Like they're on the field, but they're not making the plays that they should. I'm serious. They're not making the plays they should, and that'll frustrate you. Because it'll be a guy in position but has no ball skills and can't get the interception. Okay? It's just a frustrating thing. So let's go look at UCF as a whole. Like I said, wide receivers, amazing. Jacoby Jones transferring in from Ohio, the best wide receiver at Ohio, one of the best in the MAC. Javarius Johnson coming in from Auburn, not a bad player. Very good. In the slot, obviously, Xavier Townsend and Kobe Hudson, some of the best wide receivers in the Big 12. I would say this wide receiver room is very comparable to Baylor, Colorado, BYU, all those types of wide receiver rooms. I like this wide receiver room. They might even be better than BYU. So Baylor, Colorado is. Amari Knight. Coming in from, he's a transfer from Alabama. So to get a player like this at your school is cool. It's awesome. And congratulations, okay? They usually don't get players like this at UCF, and he turned out to be pretty damn good. Adrian Medley, not bad. He's fine. This is the problem. Center. They had Bullis Schmidt, who just transferred in to be the starting center last year. They also had another kid. His name escapes me right now. He played at St. John Bosco, went to Stanford, then transferred here. He actually got kicked out of Stanford because he wouldn't get a COVID shot. Reached out to Drake Metcalf. He reached out to me on my DMs on TikTok, and he was like, hey, man, don't be putting that out there. That's my personal business. And I'm like, all right, bro, did you get kicked out of Stanford for not taking a COVID? Yeah, you're out of here, bro. I just need to know if you did the COVID shot or not. Did you take the vaccine or not? He got all upset. Who told you this? Who told you this? Shut up, bro. And then he hit the transfer portal, and he's gone. After 1 year. I think he's at Virginia, by the way. I can double check the chart here. But Caden Kittler will not be the starting center. He's just not good enough to start. They went out and signed Jabari Brooks. I believe they signed Jabari Brooks late in the process, in the spring, after spring football, because they know they needed more depth and seniority. Jabari Brooks has been a starter at the FCS level for a number of years, so it's all good. Marcellus Marshall, he's fine. He's I think he's an all-conference guy and pretty good player. Pretty good player. I shouldn't say fine. He's good. Wes Dorsey is the one I meant to say he's fine. Wes Dorsey transferring in. Believe he's a starter at Western Kentucky last year. Doesn't move me, man. Doesn't move me like that. I think this offensive line is okay. But in the totem pole of offensive line, it's better than Colorado's. It's better than a few teams in the Big 12, but not many. I think it's in the bottom. It's not in the top 10 in the Big 12. This offensive line looks okay. There's some other offensive lines in the Big 12 that are absolutely amazing. Kansas State, Iowa State. like when you start looking at units, Baylor, TCU, they went out and paid to get their units fixed, and this one is just kind of like, they keep getting leftovers from the SEC, and it's not really moving me like that. Tight end, Randy Pittman. Don't know much about Randy, to be honest. We can go back over here and look. Did he catch anything? He didn't move me like that. Here he is, 19 catches, 250 yards, and a touchdown. Didn't really move me because I was looking at Alec all year and the wide receivers. I don't think they use tight ends like that. But you can see how they brought in senior transfers. They want more depth at the position. I think our lads is going to be wrong about some of these position groups and some of these starters. I really do. That's just my assessment of the talent. KJ Jefferson coming in, absolute stud. Love everything about him. I hope he plays to his potential. But I'm going to tell you guys something about the way, like I said, UCF analyzes talent inappropriately. I saw Gus Malzahn say this is the closest to Cam Newton he's had. So if you believe in KJ Jefferson and everything he's doing, more power to you. I hope he plays lights out. He didn't play lights out last year. He played absolutely terrible while at Arkansas. The backup is Ja'Cory Brown. Complete stud coming out of high school, 4-star quarterback, 6'4", played at Lowndes here in Georgia, was in the state title game his sophomore year, lost. After that, just kind of was always good, but his team wasn't good enough to get there. Goes down to Miami, been on the bench for a while, eventually falls to third string, and now he transfers. It's a sad case, but Ja'Cory Brown can play. I just wish he would have transferred to UAB or West Georgia, somewhere where he can see the field, because he's not going to see the field here, and they're probably going to bring in another transfer and another transfer and another transfer, and they're never going to let this kid play. I mean, you imagine being in college 4 years and 3 to 4 years, and you still haven't seen the field. Just a waste. It reminds me a lot of the kid who just transferred back to Jacoby Criswell, just transferred back to North Carolina out of Arkansas. Back and forth, just never going to get on the field. Running back room, beast. You got R.J. Harvey, the starter, complete stud, explosive, fullback, complete running back is what I meant to say. And then you have Penny Boone. Penny Boone transferring in. Yes, I think he's okay. I don't think he's sensational. When I watched him at Maryland, he wasn't that great. You go to the MAC, you dominate at Toledo, got it. But you're dominating inferior competition. You get back to the Power 5, we'll see what you do. I think he's a change of pace back, fills in the gap. There's no drop-off, that kind of deal. But it's not like he's R.J. Harvey. No, not at all. Johnny Richardson, congratulations. You're still here. Quality running back. Miles Montgomery transferring in from Cincinnati. Good player. Good kind of third or fourth running back. He's young. He'll be the backup next year, I'm sure. Talked about the defensive line at length. Here's where they made their moves. They know they needed help on the defense, and they decided to address the interior defense, the second level of the defense, the linebackers, the defensive ends. That's awesome. Getting Nigel Kelly from Miami, he's a stud. Very good pick to get. Ethan Barr's the leader of this defense instantly as soon as he shows up. This is a two-time team captain. They say he's a transfer from Washington. He's not. He's a transfer from Vanderbilt. He was in the SEC for 2 years, leading that team and everything, and then he transferred to Washington. Once DeBoer and them guys left and went to Alabama, he jumped back in the portal, and now he's at UCF. This is a guy that DeBoer valued. This is a leader of men. I like Ethan Barr a lot. So that's a good pickup to get in the middle. Exree Alexander, just a young kid, led Idaho in tackles last year. I don't think he'll see the field in the starting lineup at all. Obviously, he's now a backup. Dylan Dotson, an FCS kid. I'm cool with it. But they brought in these guys for depth, and they brought in these guys to start and actually compete in the Big 12. It's two different levels to this, right? Josiah Perry, Perry, we know he can play fourth in tackles at Texas Tech last year. Good get. You know he can play in the Big 12. You needed help at the linebacker position. And I love UCF's linebacker coach, okay? They have a former five-star superstar as a linebackers coach, and I've made many videos on him. But let's keep it focused on Deshaun Pace here, the star position. This is the leading tackler from Cincinnati last year. The leading tackler from Cincinnati last year transfers in. That's great, man. Awesome stuff. You went out and got some ballers. So 4 transfers in a row that are just complete studs. But here's the problem. I need you to listen. You got your studs from Vanderbilt, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, okay? USC, couldn't start at USC, and then ETSU, Sheldon Arnold, ETSU, and he wasn't even the best safety on that team. The best safety is still on that team. You can ask Evan Kramer. We talk about him offline. And I've made a video about him on TikTok. What I want to show you is they're getting star players. Auburn, Western Kentucky, and Arkansas. Every star player they got is from a losing program. It's from a team that is used to losing. So when you bring a bunch of good players in that have losing habits, or embrace losing, or accept losing, or just don't know what it takes to win, this is how you lose those 2-point games. This is how you lose those close matchups. You bring players like this in your locker room. And I'm being real, man. I don't know the individuals. I just know the results. And I look at these players and I go, man, you can't bring in a bunch of losers together and go, yo, we're going to start winning games. I don't believe that. As a matter of fact, I even take it to high school. If I'm recruiting a player, I want him to come from a winning program. I want him to embrace winning habits and know what it takes. I don't want to hear about you being 4-6 your senior year and miss the playoffs, but you're a hell of a player on a losing team. Fine. People want to find those hidden gems. Go for it, bro. I want to find a guy who led his team to the state title and they lost in the state title game, or they won. And it's the first state title in the school's history. And yeah, 24/7 has him as 3 stars, but I know he has a winning mentality and a winning record. I'm going to tell you this guy, Brandon Adams, right here. Brandon Adams played at Arabia Mountain here in Georgia. Never a winning record in high school. And he's been on this team, and he's been on the field like 3 years in a row. He kind of starts, he kind of doesn't. He played quarterback, wide receiver, running back, DB, and he just doesn't quite get it there. And I think UCF is going to become a reflection of what those players are. And these players are guys who just don't quite win. Not a single one of them. I can't point to a single one of these guys who have a career winning record. Not one. That's crazy. That you try to build a winning team from players who have no wins to their name. You go to that locker room, they embrace losing. It doesn't bother them. It becomes a pattern. It becomes a habit. You got to recruit winners. You got to recruit winners. You got to recruit leaders. And I love Ethan Barr as a leader. Love him. I think, oh, man, that guy's a leader in the locker room. But imagine you look at the two deep on your team, and the leader in the locker room is the best player from Vandy. Or you can go recruit a kid to come over from USC, and he couldn't start at USC, who has a terrible defense, and now he's your starter. I love Mac McWilliams here. Mac McWilliams, nobody talks about him. Mac McWilliams here should be starting. Mac McWilliams was at UAB last year, and while everybody talks about BJ Mays transferring to Texas A&M, the two best corners at UAB were Mac McWilliams and BJ Mays. But UAB is a losing team. They had a losing record. And you're just recruiting and signing transfers and recruiting players who have either never seen the field or don't have a winning record. Jacoby Jones does. He's a backup. Penny Boone, backup. Ja'Cory Brown, backup. Obviously, Nigel Kelly, starter. But the vast majority of what you sign are losers. And then you wonder why they lose games when they're close. You wonder why they lose a 2-point game. It's unfortunate. Now, what I noticed is if you look at their spring transfer portal, remember, the spring is in April after the spring football game. You notice who they signed in the spring. They went and got Cedric Hawkins. He's just coming home. I don't know much about Hawkins. He played at Ohio State. 2023 kid just coming home. Spent 1 year at Ohio State lifting weights. Congratulations. Kelly coming in, addressing the line. Got a long snapper. Got Fagans. Apparently he's a starter. Got a backup quarterback, backup running back, another wide receiver. Went and signed Sheldon Arnold, who was not the best safety. That's Chris Hope, by the way, at ETSU, the best safety. I leave out a lot of names when I'm talking, but like I said, they got a 5-star linebacker coach or whatever. Ernie Sims, former first-round pick in the NFL. Amazing player. He is the linebackers coach for the team. There's Mac McWilliams. Great get late in the transfer portal cycle. Javaris Johnson coming over from UAB. But you just see teams where there's like no winners, bro. No winners. You can't count Cedric Hawkins. He didn't start there. He didn't ever play there. He's not coming from Washington. He's coming from Vandy. No winner. Oh, Ladarius Tennyson. To tell me Ladarius isn't going to start over an FCS guys, it's just weird to me. He's coming from Ole Miss, but even is he a recruiting miss at Ole Miss? You got Goldie Lawrence. He already hit the portal and left to go to A&M. You got Xavier Carter. He already left. He couldn't play here. I already talked about this shit. Like Antoine Jackson, good player to get. He's just young. He won't be on the field. But it feels like you just got a bunch of losers. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. All right. That being said, how many games are they going to win? Well, remember, Vegas has them at 7.5 wins. So I'm looking at New Hampshire. They're definitely winning that game. Sam Houston, they're definitely winning that game. Then they're on the road at TCU. They better figure that the hell out. And it's a trap game in a sense, just because, well, you got Colorado coming up next. And maybe they're really hyped about that Colorado matchup. But for me, 2 weeks to prepare for Colorado, I don't like the way their defense measures up against Colorado. Colorado's strength is passing, and UCF has no secondary that I'm afraid of. Like, UCF secondary doesn't match up well with Colorado wide receivers or their quarterback play. So I actually like that. That's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a high-scoring shootout. Obviously, Colorado has to somehow stop R.J. Harvey, figure out how to stop K.J. Jefferson. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout, and I don't like it, man. I don't like a team that can. It looks like a team can just score on you. All right. And then the strengths of Colorado's defense are their secondary and obviously the wide receivers over here for UCF. UCF's always going to be able to score. I don't like the way they match up with TCU. Same thing. And Colorado. But those feel like coin flips to me. I don't see them beating Florida. I think they'll beat Cincinnati. But it's also another coin flip, if you will. I think they'll beat them, though. Their offense is too potent. They're going to score too many points. I don't like the way they match up with Iowa State. Iowa State has such an experienced team. They're bringing back every single starter in their secondary, every single starter on their offensive line, they have all the wide receivers coming back. They have a great freshman quarterback. Iowa State's real, bro. Iowa State's a problem. And I think that's going to be a very difficult game for them to win on the road. I don't like it. BYU's a coin flip, but they should beat BYU. They should beat Arizona State, just outscoring them. They're not beating Arizona, and I have them losing these last two games against West Virginia and Utah. So if you look at the schedule for what it is, I have them automatically losing to Florida, losing to Iowa State, Arizona, West Virginia, and Utah. That's 5 losses. Okay, I have them lost. 5 losses. And if you have them winning any of those, congratulations, then you're on the over. I have them with those 5, and that means 7 wins. What's crazy is of those 5 losses, there's still coin flips that they have to worry about in BYU, Cincinnati, Colorado, and TCU. The wheels can fall off really fast for this team if that offensive line doesn't hold up, which I don't think it's very good. And if they can't just outscore teams because their defense is going to be problematic. Their defense is not very good on the back end. Very decent starters on the defensive line and linebackers, but the secondary looks terrible. So for me, TCU's a threat. Colorado, Florida, Iowa State, BYU, because BYU, all their wide receivers are back. It's a problem. And BYU's defense is stout, by the way. BYU, Arizona, West Virginia, and Utah, I literally could see them losing 8 games if it really came down to it. A 4-8 team, which is crazy, right? Because you think you're solving it, but what you're doing is just solving it with terrible players who don't have a winning acumen or a winning pedigree, and you didn't look ready for the Big 12 last year. I don't know how much ready you are if you didn't address the trenches. And I'm talking about the offensive line and the depth in the defensive line. And then your secondary sucks. Your secondary is not it. So that being said, I'm on the under. And it's a lean. It's not a lock. I'm on the under. But if you feel comfortable with it, go bet it. Let me pull it up here for you guys. Pull up the chart. Remember, we're winding down. We've got them all done. If you want to go watch a team, do a search, find the teams. But these are all the futures bets for next season. You want to get them in before the season starts. Tomorrow I'm doing Utah. Wednesday I'm doing Notre Dame. And then Thursday, Friday I'm doing UFC fights. And then next Sunday I'll be doing Rutgers. Next Monday I'll be doing K-State. And then we start hitting Group of 5. When I do Group of 5, I'll probably be doing it by the whole conference in one video. So it'll be really fast. But that's what I'm doing. If you ever want to watch me on TikTok Live, I am doing evaluations of the offensive skill groups and defensive skill groups. Obviously, we know all the players. Please, guys, go watch the videos. Put your bets where you should. We're going to make money. We're not going to miss. Go back and watch the lock videos and feel pretty good about them. Feel pretty good about the value bets and the leans, right? We're going to see what kind of percentages we hit. We should be over 50% in every single category. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all. Some MVPs are better than others.